Welcome everyone to the Malvern Retreat House and our Saturday small group discussion. My name is Father Jim McGuinn.
Juan Guerra.
And
Michael Lorton.
great, thanks for being here. It's really great to share with you some of the things that are happening at the retreat house. And one of the things that we would like to share with you are the results of a recent survey that we just sent out. So, Juan, you said beforehand, before we started, that you weren't real keen on sending out a survey. Sometimes they can be tedious, but you thought it ended up being a good experience. Why was that?
Well, my children's school sent us an email explaining what we could expect for September. I have 4 daughters, and as a parent, I appreciated getting a letter saying, okay, we're going to be opening in September. We may be looking at 3 options. One is we may go back to what we did in the spring, which was a virtual educational experience for your children. We may have a hybrid. We may have part virtual and part open, or we may be fully open. Those are our 3 options. And I appreciated the honesty and the directness of that message. So I thought initially, a survey asking, what do you all think, may not have been what you wanted. As a parent, I know that I just wanted to know what the school was going to offer us. Right. So I thought that the Malvern Retreat House maybe should just send out a letter saying, these are our possibilities, this is what we've come up with. But when I read the survey, some of the questions were really good, and I thought, this is a really good way to engage you all, because we're all part of this family called Malvern Retreat, and unlike the school situation, you all deserve to be a part of the decision making. Mm-hmm. So the survey enabled us to learn what you were thinking and helped us to formulate a plan for moving forward.
Yeah. And Mike, do you want to talk about some of the results from that survey?
Well, I think the interesting thing that we found, there was a lot of interesting things.
Yeah.
You have to be, we have to be thankful to all the folks who participated in the survey, and it was over 1,500 people. We got a nice response. It was interesting, one of the things that came back was people are very much looking forward to coming back to Malvern for the retreat. And they want it to be the same, pretty as close as it was before they left. So one of the things that came up was they want to hopefully when we open up that we'll be able to have at least 100 people within a group. And part of that is that the camaraderie within the group is a big part of the weekend.
Yeah.
You might not see somebody for a year, might be a friend of yours that moved out of state. But to come here and share the spirituality and share the talks and all that, but also get caught up. There's a nice camaraderie there. So they really, that was one of the things that came out there. Really, it's like, let's get this thing ramped up as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Other results that you remember that kind of stood out for you?
Well, one of the questions, interestingly enough, was, having to do with the whole coronavirus pandemic, and recognizing how it's upended all our lives and affected us, and of course affected the retreat house. And the response from you all, according to the survey, was, we don't want to hear any more of that. We see it on the news every day. We talk about it over our dinner tables. We're up to here with coronavirus and other bits of bad news that have been tragically affecting our country and dividing our country. And there's a thirst for a return to the spirituality. So not just the crowds, not having camaraderie, but what the retreat house really does offer.
Right.
Yeah. Any other results that kind of stood out for you, Mike?
Well, I think that it was good to see that the men shared and the women shared that some were impacted by the coronavirus more than others.
Oh yeah.
And, some of the folks that were retired, I mean, as much as, there wasn't as much of an economic bang.
Mm-hmm.
Some that were working, there was the economic bang. But as Juan was saying, what they're looking for is a return to normality. I'm coming to the Malvern Retreat House for the same reason that I've come to the Malvern Retreat House for the last 35 years, because I want to deepen my relationship with the Lord and I want to find peace. And we always talk, it's interesting, we talk about this place being an escape, an oasis. And now we're really saying that, they're really talking about it. What they want to do is drive through the front gate and leave the world behind and spend the 40, 42 hours with the Lord and just really taking in nothing but that wonderful love of the Lord and positive news. It's like, and so it's interesting that really came to the top to say that's what is important. That's what the Malvern Retreat House is. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
The other thing that came out was that clearly folks want us to be here, and they want us to be here, again I say, in the manner in which we were here.
Yeah.
Now they are willing, because there's such a thirst for spirituality to have, and I know you're having a virtual retreat coming up this coming Tuesday and Thursday, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But they're willing to say, yeah, I'll partake in that because clearly I eat. So it's kind of like, what, I don't have time for my whole dinner, but I'm at least want to eat the main course.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking at. So they may say, hey, you know what, I'll do the virtual retreat, or I'll do the hybrid, or I'll do a day retreat, but make no mistake, I want my weekend back.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny, we were talking about that yesterday, that we do have to offer different versions of retreats because of the situation that we're in, but there is something special about the 3-day, 2-night over retreat. Yeah. That people come in on a Friday, and it almost takes a full night just to kind of unplug and slow down.
Right. Yeah.
And then you have all of Saturday, and then you sleep here Saturday night, and then Sunday it's like, you even enter into the spirit of the retreat even more, and then Sunday afternoon comes along and it's time to return. But there is something special about the weekend retreat. So one of the things that kind of grabbed my attention on the retreat was they trust what we're doing, the people who filled out the survey.
Right.
They trust what we're doing. They would just like to know more of it. So we apologize for maybe not being better at communicating to you all the things that have been happening here since the middle of March. And we just want to try to get better at that. And that's why we wanted to talk about the survey today. When we do open up, there's going to be lots of requirements. It's not going to be like we're not going to go back to the way things used to be. So I think it might be helpful to talk about some of those, the nitty-gritty type of changes. Maybe starting from when they first arrive on the campus with registration, and then maybe just going throughout the weekend, or if it's just a single day. But like registrations probably are going to be different. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think that we're going to have registration in one place. There's going to be signage that reminds us that we're going to have the social distancing, and we're going to have to wear masks when we're inside and when we're outside trying to keep social distancing. But with registration, it's going to be coming in. We're going to have to, and we are following the best recommendations from the CDC and things like that, where we're going to have to scan temperatures to make sure that no one is, has a temperature coming in. We're going to be asking people, if they're feeling well. We're going to be asking them if they're not feeling well, to maybe say, hey, maybe it's not the best thing, for me to attend. And I think that's important. We are concerned, obviously, with the safety of our retreatants and the safety of our staff.
That's right.
And so we have to really follow these. It was interesting. I went to my mother's in a senior living, and when you go there, you're stopped at the security gate, and they check your temperature, and they give you a bracelet so that they know that you've been checked.
Oh yeah.
Which I think is good.
Yeah.
You have to have your mask on. I have to tell you guys, I'm still getting used to wearing a mask everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to the bank yesterday. Fascinating, actually. I went to the bank. I got into the door, and I was like, well, I forgot my mask. I go back to the car, get the mask, I walk into the bank, I am greeted by somebody right as I walk through the door.
Yeah.
The young lady is holding the pad. Why are you here? I'm here for withdrawal. She starts, what's your account number? She fills it all out.
Oh, wow.
Asks me for my license, I show her the license, she writes it down. Takes me to a table like this. There's a pen on the table. She tells me to pick the pen up, sign, and then put the pen over here in a cup where they are then going to, sanitize it. Right.
Wow.
Then I am handed the slip.
Yeah.
I walk into the teller, hand it to there was very little of me touching anything.
Yeah.
And then when I got done, they're wiping that down.
Wow.
That's where we're going to be.
That's the new normal.
Well,
At least for now.
At least
right,
for now.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we will be doing that. We will be cleaning the bathrooms on an hourly basis. We'll be checking temperatures. We'll be, making sure that that people have their own sanitizing what needs to be done. As we get to the green phase and things lighten up a little bit, it might not be as much as wiping up,
Sure.
like my Irish grandmother every time you look at your teacup, but that's where we are right now.
Right.
That is where we are.
Like we've talked about this too, maybe there's only going to be 4 people or 6 people at a table rather
Right.
than our traditional 8.
Right.
And we may have disposable rather than stainless steel,
Yeah, paper
plates.
plates and things.
Right.
One of the things that was so jarring for all of us is that how quickly we shut down, and it was like a notice, and suddenly you were all hearing it, and the retreats were getting suspended week after week after week, and it was extending longer and longer. And as we open up, we're reminded of the old adage how easy it is to shut things down, but to retool and get back in operation, it's a lot harder, and it's going to involve some tweaking, and we're going to make some mistakes.
Mhm.
We're trying to avoid them as much as possible. We convened this COVID-19 task force to prepare and to follow the rules and guidelines as Michael was saying, through the CDC and local health departments. And following those rules, we've cleaned the place out. I mean, we've disinfected, we've prepared, but even then, we're going to make some mistakes. And part of it is communicating with you all. Maybe we need to better communicate with you. So that's what we really want to do.
And on the communication side of things, I think we have to give praise to the men and women of Malvern who have been very patient with us. And I think patient in general with whatever services they're working with out there, because things are changing at such a rapid rate on the one hand, but not fast enough on the other. I think sometimes folks forget that if you're coming on a retreat weekend, you're getting notified 6 to 8 weeks beforehand. Well, we don't know what's happening 2 weeks from now.
Right.
So we're trying to read the tea leaves, so to speak, and say, hey, we're going to open July 15th. That is the plan, but that is subject to change based on the county and based on the state. I mean, we're still in the yellow phase here. It looks like we're progressing to green. So it's just trying to keep everybody informed, but we're in the dark about a lot of this also.
Right. And I think, we acknowledge that a lot of you retreatants and people who are part of the Malvern community are frustrated at times.
Sure.
But to be honest, as a staff, and we have a sizable staff, we're frustrated. And I think we just need to acknowledge that too, so that we can do the best we can, because we just don't know what the new guidelines are, and things are constantly in flux, and we're starting to move in this direction, then all of a sudden we have to go in that direction, and then we're back here. So there's a lot of frustration all over the place, and that's all just kind of part of this. Other changes that we're going to be looking at, there's plenty of masks. People are going to be, they have to wear masks. The sanitizers for their hands are going to be all over the place.
Exactly.
Social distancing in the chapels and in the conferences. And even that is kind of frustrating because we don't always know what category we fit in.
Right.
So are we, do the suggestions and recommendations for the hospitality industry apply to us, or houses of worship apply to us, or educational institutions apply to us? So sometimes we don't know who we are, and we don't know what recommendations apply to us, and we have to go through that process.
Well, is it? Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was thinking, you mentioned the houses of worship. Most of us are going to Mass once again and blessed that we can and receive the Blessed Sacrament. But that's a perfect example of, we are still going to Mass, and there's the familiarity, and there is the Mass is there. The Holy Sacrifice happens, but it's also different, with the distancing and the wearing of the mask. So I think all of us, having experienced it at church, I think we're sort of seeing that probably an example of similarities of what we're going to have here. We're going to still have it, but it's going to be a little different initially.
Yeah, it's going to be very different. It's, I was chuckling because, Father, as you were saying, are we a house of worship? Are we a hotel? Are we this? I mean, it was actually brought up, we can all, someone said, well, are we considered entertainment, like a concert or something, because of the number of people? And so it's trying, because we sort of fit in all those areas, and that's what's difficult.
Well, when Father tells the jokes, we're a little bit of that.
Oh, really hilarious.
When he sings, it definitely,
It is entertaining.
it is
Answerable.
Right, exactly. I mean, so it's trying to figure that out. I mean, our staff, Jim Hall and Cindy, are working with the county, and we have a part of the task force on the governmental guidelines for opening up. It's really quite fascinating. It's not like we're a hoagie shop where you can just say, just order and I'll bring it out to the car or whatever.
Right.
It's a big undertaking. So again, thank you for your flexibility. The one thing that's constant throughout all this is that Malvern, while we are changing the way that we're doing things, we have not moved at all from the mission of what we're doing.
Yeah.
What we were founded for, way back in 1912 is what we're doing now, and that's bringing people closer to Christ. On a positive note, I think that some of the changes, and I'm not talking about the temperature and the masks, but some of the changes that we're making, i.e. the videos and things like that, I think are going to help us in the future.
Right.
To reach more people. So if we look at the positiveness of this, there's going to be a way to reach more people with our message. But make no mistake, the board of directors, we're here, and we are doing everything we can to fight this crisis. And if I could just take a little left-hand turn here, most of everybody, we sent out a letter saying that we're being financially crushed right now, like any other business. So I just ask you that if you've received the letter asking for a donation, that you consider it. We need every man and woman of Malvern to contribute to Malvern. I can't say it any easier or any simpler than that. We have to, because we've lost the revenue. And in order to keep us strong financially, will we survive? No doubt we'll survive. We're going to get through this. But would like to get through it as whole as possible. So when you're sitting and you're considering and you're watching this, if you haven't made a donation to Malvern, I ask that you please prayerfully consider doing that. I ask that you think about donating your retreat fee, the $250 retreat fee, so that we could cover one-for-one the revenue that we've lost. And it's just something that has to be done. It's going to take everybody. It's flat out going to take everybody to do that. So whatever you can give. And I know some people are hurting. If you're hurting and can't give the $250, whatever you can. If you're doing a little better and you can give more, please give more. That's just the nature of the reality that we're in right now.
And Mike, also, they can pledge over a year, right?
Well, you could break it up into 10 or 12 payments. I mean, what I'd really like to see folks do is you put it on, you just commit it's continual giving, just rather than $250, hey, you know what, I'll give $25 a month. And just, we will automatically set that up and we'll
it's on our reach.
And it's recurring.
Right, and it's on the Malvern Retreat House website.
Yeah.
And the program is called Malvern forward.
Right,
So
exactly.
it is, and to add to what you're all saying is many of you have already given, and I want to thank you. The response has been really extraordinary. We need to continue that momentum, but for those of you that have given just a deep thank you.
A very deep thank you. And I mean, we said it in a letter, so this is public knowledge. We need to raise $1.2 million by the end of the year. That's why it's going to take every person to give something so that we can do that. So, but you know what, we'll get it. By the grace of God, as Mark says, together we can, and by the grace of God we will.
Amen.
Yeah, so.
And I don't know who said it, but Malvern has never been through this type of a situation. Malvern has never closed since it's been here, since 1921, which meant like there were still retreats being held during the Spanish influenza at St. Charles Seminary and then here.
Yeah.
Then during the Depression,
Yeah.
during World War I, World War II.
Right.
I mean, it has never shut down, so this is completely different.
Yeah, this is the first time in our history that we haven't had weekends. And part of the sadness of not having the weekends, I know that I feel this, but I'm speaking for everybody. In those times of trial, Malvern's needed more then. Than at any other time.
That's right.
And we see that, and it's
And we're hearing that from you.
and we are hearing that from folks. So
So the good news is we have started the process of reopening.
right.
It's taken longer than any of us expected, but we're excited about beginning again, and we thank you for your patience, we thank you for your generosity, and we thank you for your love, really, ultimately, over the years. I know it sounds a little cliche, but really, ultimately.
One of the changes that we are going to have to acknowledge is that some of the staff is going to look different. Because I don't normally wear my hair this long. Father Jim, now Juan has a daughter that's pretty good with clippers, so he was able to get his hair cut. But
The dog clippers.
yeah,
The dog clippers.
but,
And we're all a little heavier.
the quarantine 15, I think.
Yeah, quarantine 15, they also called the pandemic pounds.
Yeah,
And the new one now is the COVID-19.
COVID-19. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for joining us. You're great people. We love you a whole lot, and just know that we continue to pray for you. Thank you.
And those blessings.
Sure. And may Almighty God bless you, your loved ones, and all of us, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Bros.